the midterms are coming up, and there's an unlikely reason why some of these candidates who are election deniers and white supremacists have enjoyed some success in their campaigns. According to a Washington Post analysis, Democrats have spent nearly $19 million across 8 states in primaries this year, amplifying far-right Republican candidates who have questioned or denied the validity of the 2020 election, interfering in GOP contests to elevate rivals they see as easier to defeat in November, even as those candidates have promoted false or baseless claims. The practice by some campaigns and outside groups this year has divided Democrats, with some in the party complaining that such tactics are risky and could ultimately result in the election of candidates who pose serious threats to democracy. The approach often involves TV ads suggesting that a far-right GOP candidate is too conservative for a state or district, and drawing attention to the candidate's hardline views on abortion, guns, and former President Donald Trump, messages that resonate with conservative primary voters. In other cases, Democrats have run ads attacking GOP candidates seen as tougher to defeat in general elections in ways that could erode support for them in Republican primaries. Total Democratic spending rises to roughly 53 million when a 9th state, Illinois, is added. There, Democratic Governors Association, the DGA, and the campaign of Governor J.B. Pritzker spent a combined 34.5 million successfully elevating a GOP candidate who has said it was appalling that party leaders in Illinois wanted Trump to concede the 2020 election. $34.5 million to get a GOP candidate that is an election denier to run against Pritzker. That is insane. The Democrats gave this strategy one more try in New Hampshire. There were 2 races in September, and their efforts ended up helping these 2 men. So we've got Don Bolduc and Bob Burns on the right, Bolduc's on the left. So you can see them. GOP Senate candidate Bolduc concurred with Trump's false claims that the 2020 election was rigged and signed a letter along with other retired military leaders claiming without evidence that the FBI and Supreme Court ignored election irregularities. Burns was an otherwise poorly funded GOP House candidate who acknowledges that Biden won, but has claimed that a ton of other unspecified elections were stolen in 2020. Now, here's the approximate amount of Democratic money spent in GOP primaries. Just look at this chart. It's insane. You can see that about 6 of these candidates won, and you can see the millions of dollars that were spent promoting these candidates that are spreading messages of conspiracy theories and lies, shedding doubt on the democratic process, and spreading far-right messages on the airwaves. These are millions of dollars spent by Democrats boosting these candidates. So adjusting for these New Hampshire updates for these 2 races, Bolduc and Burns, they're moving on to the November 8th general election, along with 4 other far-right candidates, making the total 6. So Democrats directly interfered with at least 13 primaries here. And just think about, what if they spent that money promoting Democratic candidates and spreading a Democratic message about what they do, how they won't cut Social Security like conservative candidates would? This money may have been much better spent elsewhere. 13 primaries, so 6 gubernatorial races, 2 Senate contests, and 5 House campaigns. More reporting from the Washington Post on this. In one instance where Democrats helped fund a Nevada organization promoting a right-wing gubernatorial candidate, the organization's leader, a Republican, told the Post he spent excess funds on down ballot races Democrats hadn't intended to finance, including a Secretary of State primary in which an election denying candidate prevailed. Critics complain these investments undercut the party's vow to be guardians of democracy. Worse yet, they say in a difficult political climate for Democrats, they fear it might lead to electing the very candidates they perceive to present the biggest threats to the country. The way I see this is Democrats fight progressives extremely hard in primaries to try and make sure that establishment candidates win, and then they go off and fund right-wing candidates. They're much more afraid of progressives coming to power than literal fascists winning in America. This is very scary. So when we see the results on November 8th, keep in mind the roots of these results. And if these candidates win, we know that the Democratic Party itself had a hand in this. So Jackson, I want to bring you in here. This is some crazy reporting.
And there's one thing to be said about strategy, but the fact is that this is not a new approach. This is something that the Democrats have done many times in many elections over the course of years. And the results haven't been such that when we do this, we win 100% of the time. This is in more of the bigger consequential elections. We saw this with Donald Trump. People didn't particularly take his campaign seriously all the way through to the finish. Many things that should have been done weren't done. And as you pointed out, regardless, spending money on your own is always a better tactic. And if the Democrats, we know the issue why they don't is corruption, but if they were a party that delivered and then, took to the bullhorn what it is that they did for the people more often, then they wouldn't need to play these types of tricks. Because at the end of the day, this really is a trick. You're trying to indirectly, it's passive aggression, which I really don't like from people anyway. So this really is a passive aggressive tactic that it doesn't guarantee any type of real results. And this is why we need to continue to push for better progressives to get in office, which I personally believe that we have a very good opportunity to do, not just in the next handful of elections, but just generally in the political time that we're moving into. I have faith that a lot of strong leaders will continue to rise up. And but yeah, it's really a shame to see Democrats wasting this amount of money on a tactic that they've seen doesn't work many times over.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd think that maybe when we got to the point where the candidates running in these primaries were pushing conspiracy theories and that our elections are not valid, that maybe then they would say, okay, let's not promote these messages or these candidates, but they will literally stop at nothing. And I think at the heart of this is that both parties' leadership really want centrist mainstream neoliberalism, and oftentimes it feels like they're on the same team. And this is one of those situations where it's like clearly one party is pushing white Christian nationalism and election denial. They hate democracy. They want to live in a white Christian nationalist state, and they're saying this directly. And still the Democratic Party is promoting them. I just think it's scary. We live in a time where instead of doing something to help people and delivering public goods, they still play the political game. Any last thoughts on this, Jackson?
Other than we got to take it into our own hands, not really.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very important last thought.